Greetings, my name is Nazari and I follow the teachings of the disciples of truth. And today I'm going to be doing a lesson on whether or not women can speak or teach. And I'm going to prove that based on the Bible, they can. We're going to start with Exodus chapter 15, verse 20. And we're also going to read verse 21. It says, "And Miriam, the prophetess, the sister of Aaron, took a timbrel in her hand, and all the women went out after her with timbrels and with dances. And Miriam answered them, Sing ye to the highest, for he had triumphant gloriously. The horse and his rider had he thrown into the sea." So if we go back here to verse 21, it says, "And Miriam answered them." So she was asked the question because she's answering. And she said, "Sing ye to the highest." So this is an instruction. This is a commandment. Sing. Right? So from very early in the scriptures, we see an example here where a woman is speaking, and it's in the midst of the congregation of Israel. Next scripture we're going to look at is Judges chapter 4, verse 4. It says, "And Deborah, a prophetess, the wife of Lapidoth, she judged Israel at that time." So we see a woman here in great position of power because she was a judge as well as a prophetess. Verse 5, continue reading. "And she dwelt under the palm tree of Deborah between Ramah and Bethel in Mount Ephraim. And the children of Israel came up to her for judgment." So the nation of Israel, the children of Israel, they went up to Deborah, the prophetess, and the judge for judgment. So she's in a great position of power. So she has men under her. And we're going to prove this as well. It says in verse 6, "And she sent and called Barak, the son of Abinoam, out of Kadesh Naphtali, and said unto him, Had not the highest of Israel commanded, saying, Go and draw towards Mount Tabor, and take with thee 10,000 men of the children of Naphtali, and of the children of Zebulun, and I will draw unto thee to the river Kishon Sisera, the captain of Jabin's army, with his chariots and his multitude, and I will deliver him into thine hand. And Barak said unto her, If thou wilt go with me, then I will go. But if thou wilt not go with me, then I will not go." So this man Barak, he knew the great power and authority that Deborah had, and he's saying, "I'm not going without you." Let's take a look now at 2 Kings chapter 22. We're going to start from verse 10. "And Shaphan the scribe showed the king, saying, Hilkiah the priest had delivered me a book. And Shaphan read it before the king. And it came to pass, when the king had heard the words of the book of the law, that he rent his clothes. And the king commanded Hilkiah the priest, and Acham the son of Shaphan, and Achbor the son of Micaiah, and Shaphan the scribe, and Asaiah, a servant of the king's, saying, Go ye, inquire of the Most High for me, and for the people, for all Judah, concerning the words of this book that is found. For great is the wrath of the highest that is kindled against us, because our fathers have not hearkened unto the words of this book, to do according unto all that which is written concerning us. So Hilkiah the priest, and Acham, and Achbor, and Shaphan, and Asaiah went unto Huldah the prophetess, the wife of Shallum, the son of Tikvah, the son of Harhas, keeper of the wardrobe. Now she dwelt in Jerusalem in the college, and they communed with her." So the king sent these men out to go to the Most High, but they couldn't go directly to the Almighty, so they went to the prophetess. Okay, so we have a situation here where men are going to the prophetess for a word from the Almighty. So clearly we see another reference here where a woman can speak, and a woman is in a position of power. Verse 15, "And she said unto them, Thus saith the highest of Israel, Tell the man that sent you to me, Thus saith the Almighty, Behold, I will bring evil upon this place, and upon the inhabitants thereof, even all the words of this book which the king of Judah had read, because they have forsaken me, and have borne incense unto other deities, that they might provoke me to anger with the works of their hands. Therefore my wrath shall be kindled against this place, and shall not be quenched. But to the king of Judah, which sent you to inquire of the Most High, thus shall ye say to him, Thus says the highest of Israel, as touching the words which thou hast heard, because thine heart was tender, and thou hast humbled thyself before the Almighty, when thou hearest what I speak, asking this place, and against the inhabitants thereof, that they should become a desolation and a curse, and hast rent thy clothes, and wept before me. I also have heard thee, saith the power. Behold, therefore I will gather thee unto thy fathers, and thou shalt be gathered into thy grave in peace, and thine eyes shall not see all the evil which I will bring upon this place. And they brought the king word again. So this is pretty clear and straightforward. The king found the book of the law. He sent out messengers to inquire to the Most High, but they couldn't go directly to the Most High, so they went to a prophetess who is in communication with the Almighty, and she returns to them a message from the Father, right? Now this shows you plainly where a woman can speak. There's no debate, there's no back and forth, there's no discussion, there's no interpretation. It says what it says, and if you can't see it, then you just don't want to see it. Now let's look at another scripture. We're going to take a look at Joel chapter 2 verse 22. It says, And it shall come to pass afterwards that I will pour out my spirit upon all flesh, and your sons and your daughters shall prophesy. Your old men shall dream dreams. Your young men shall see visions. That's pretty straight, you know. There's no explanation. It says what it says. It includes males as well as females. We're also going to look at Acts chapter 2 verse 17. It says, And it shall come to pass in the last days, saith the Most High, I will pour out my spirit upon all flesh, and your sons and your daughters shall prophesy, and your young men shall see visions, and your old men shall dream dreams. It's basically just reiterating the same thing that we just read in Joel. Right? Now we're going to take a look at Acts chapter 21 verse 8 and also verse 9. And it says, And the next day we that were of Paul's company departed, and came unto Caesarea. And we entered into the house of Philip the evangelist, which was one of the 7, and abode with him. And the same man had 4 daughters, virgins, which did prophesy. Okay, so again, in order to prophesy, to be a prophet or a prophetess, you have to use your mouth, you have to speak. So the scripture is plain, there's no interpretation here. It says what it says. Cover to cover, it's the same thing. Now we're also going to look at 2 John chapter 1 verse 1. It says, The elder unto the elect lady and her children, whom I love in the truth, and not I only, but also all they that have known the truth. So we're going to read that again. The elder to the elect lady, so to the appointed lady and her children. It's not talking about kin. It's not talking about your fleshly children. It's talking about the children that is under this lady's ministry. And we're going to prove that when we read it some more. We're going to read verse 2. For the truth's sake, which dwelleth in us, and shall be with us forever. Grace be with you, mercy and peace from the highest, the Father, and from his Son. In truth and love, I rejoice greatly that I found of thy children walking in truth, as we have received a commandment from the Father. Okay, so we see here that there's an elder elect lady, an appointed lady who's over a flock, right? Because it says the elder elect lady, and it also talks about her children as well. So she's over this flock of children, these people. The next chapter and verse we're going to look at is Romans chapter 16 verse 1. And it says, I commend unto you Phoebe, our sister, which is a servant of the church which is at Cenchrea, that ye receive her in the highest, as becoming saints, and that ye assist her in whatsoever business she had need of you. For she had been a succorer of many, of myself also. So again, this scripture here is just reiterating the point. There is no debate, there's no back and forth. And these are the scriptures that need to come out when people have these discussions, because they always omit them for their own personal reason and personal gain. Okay, so we're going to take a look at the other side of the argument, right? And we're going to try and see why is it that people try to make a whole doctrine off of one scripture in the Bible when it has so many scriptures telling you something completely different, right? All this information that we just read that came from the same Paul who is saying to show homage to these women. And now they're going to try and say that Paul turned around and later on said, don't let the woman speak. Don't show respect to the woman. Keep her quiet and all this type of stuff. But let's read the scriptures and find out why they say this and refute it. 1 Timothy chapter 2 verse 11. Let the woman learn in silence with all subjection. But I suffer not a woman to teach, nor to assert authority over the man, but to be in silence. Now, at face value, when you read these scriptures, and you've heard it so many times that this is telling you that a woman can't teach, a woman can't speak, the woman can't do anything. But when we break it down, we're going to see something different, because we already had all the other scriptures before that showing you women in a position of power, men paying homage to women. So we know that something is saying something more than what we think it's saying. So let's just break it down, right? Let the woman learn in silence. So we stop right there. There's nothing wrong with that statement. Anybody should learn in silence. When you go to school, the teacher tells you to be quiet. If I'm teaching another man something and he's talking, does that make any sense? Can we go anywhere? So he's supposed to learn in silence. So this scripture is saying, let the woman learn in silence with all subjection, and nothing is wrong with that. But I suffer not a woman to teach, nor to usurp authority over the man. So it's telling you that the woman isn't supposed to speak over the man or to assert authority over the man. But in the same aspect of things, it does not tell you that the man is supposed to speak over the woman or to have authority over the woman. It's not saying that. It's just telling you that the woman is not supposed to usurp authority over or speak over the husband. That's what it's talking about. And it's talking about a husband and wife relationship. And I'm going to prove that to you with the precept, right? We're just going to read the ending of it here. It says, but to be in silence. We already explained all of that. Learn in silence, right? Let the woman learn in silence. So when it says at the end, but to be in silence, it's the same thing. But the precept for understanding this scripture is 1 Peter chapter 3 verse 1. It says, likewise, ye wives, be in subjection to your own husbands, that if any obey not the word, they also may without the word be won by the conversation of the wives. Conversation means words, means you're speaking. While they behold your facile conversation coupled with fair. So this is the reason why the woman should learn in silence, or the wife should learn in silence specifically. Because you're supposed to cover the man. If he goes down a part that he's not supposed to go on, you're supposed to remind him. That's what we just read in 1 Peter 3 and 1. I'm going to read it again. Likewise, ye wives, be in subjection to your own husbands, that if any obey not the word, they also may without the word be won by the conversation of the wives. So if I'm going astray, my wife's supposed to come and say, well, you know, you're not supposed to do that. That's not what the scriptures say, and so on and so forth. That's what it's about. It's not saying she can't say anything. She can't. It just told you conversation, right? And it says in verse 2, while they behold your facile conversation coupled with fair. So we know that fair it's talking about is to hate evil, right? Proverbs 8 and 13 would tell you that. Now, we're also going to take a look at another scripture that people try and use to say that, you know, women can't speak or what have you. 1 Corinthians chapter 14, verse 34. It says, let your women keep silent in the churches, for it is not permitted unto them to speak, but they are commanded to be under obedience, as also says the law. And if they will learn anything, let them ask their husbands at home, for it is a shame for a woman to speak in the church. Okay, so that's 1 Corinthians chapter 14, verse 34 and 35. And that's exactly where they stop. They don't read the verse after to explain that. Because what is taking place with these letters is Paul receives some questions from the different churches and he's responding to them. So it's just like when you do comprehension in school and they tell you to write over the question before you give the answer. This is exactly what he does, and we're going to prove it. We're going to read 34 and 35, but this time we're going to include 36, right? 1 Corinthians chapter 14, verse 34. Let your women keep silent in the churches, for it is not permitted unto them to speak, but they are commanded to be under obedience, as also says the law. And if they will learn anything, let them ask their husbands at home, for it is a shame for a woman to speak in the church. Verse 36, here's where it clears up. What? Came the word of the Most High out from you, or came it unto you only? Okay, so Paul refutes that, what they're saying, because this was the doctrine that they were having then, and this is the same doctrine that they're having now. We're saying that the woman is not supposed to speak. He refutes it. He says, what? Came the word of the Most High out from you, or came it unto you only? That's a rhetorical question. So did the Messiah only die for men? What kind of doctrine is that? This is what it's asking you. Did he only come to save men? We're not even going to comment anymore on that aspect or that way of thinking, right? And furthermore, we're going to look at also 1 Corinthians chapter 14, and we're going to go up again a few verses to 28. It says, but if there be no interpreter, let him keep silent in the church. So now it's telling you that the men can't speak. You see what happens when people take scripture out of context? Right? 1 Corinthians chapter 14, verse 28. But if there be no interpreter, let him keep silent in the church, and let him speak to himself and to the Most High only. Right? So this whole 1 Corinthians chapter 14, the verses that we read about the woman keeping silent, it's about speaking in tongues. When you get the whole scope of the scripture of the chapter, it's talking about speaking in tongues. So it's saying keep the order. Right? So they were specifically saying that women shouldn't be speaking in tongues, women shouldn't be this, they shouldn't be doing that, XYZ. And he says, what? Came the word of the Most High to you only? Did he come to the men only? No, he did not. It's a rhetorical. And with all the other scriptures we have, even books in the Bible named after women, right? Inspired by women. It's impossible for anybody to say that a woman can't speak, a woman can't teach, a woman can't do this, a woman... I mean, that mentality is so far below my reach that I can't even bring the words to say, you know, how off it is. The type of behavior it promotes. You know, they're out there on the streets, a bunch of men on the streets saying that they're preaching the gospel. So when a woman comes up to you now, when a woman comes up, and you know, that's about the end of the scriptures, because I mean the information is there, right? But I'm just gonna say something, right? When you go out on the streets and you have all these men out there and a woman comes up to them and they're speaking to them, we don't have any sisters to address these women because the woman would relate to a woman. You know, the men want to go and they want to bamboozle and make mockery and scream at her and degrade her and all this type of stuff. But if you have another sister there now to explain these scriptures to her, she would be more inclined to listen to a sister. It only makes sense. So all these man camps up and down through the place, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Get some sisters in your camps who can go out there and spread this truth to other sisters. If they meet a man along the way and he asks a question, they should still be able to answer it. If there's another man in the camp that's in the area, then you call him and let the brothers deal with the brothers, let the sisters deal with the sisters. Right? But they still have to be equipped and ready. If they could meet somebody on the job, or some of you are so afraid that your woman is going to talk to another man and she's going to leave you, or something. I don't know what the mentality is. Right? If insecurity is your problem, get fixed. Right? And that would be the end of it. So if you want to get any more information and all that, you could go and do some research yourself. Don't just keep relying on some quick 5-minute Rice YouTube video to teach you everything in the Bible. Get up and do some legwork. I think I've said enough, so I'm just going to end the teaching with this scripture. Ecclesiastes chapter 12, verse 13. Let us hear the conclusion of the whole matter. Fear the Most High and keep his commandments, for this is the duty of man.